When it comes to newborn animals, their behavior after leaving the womb is just like how we react when babies are born. A healthy animal or child usually behaves in a manner similar to how other babies and animals behave after they are born. This foal, on the other hand, had something strange about it. Before we start, can we get this video to 1,000 likes? Please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. When Farmer Tim saw that his horse was pregnant, he was overjoyed. It meant he was about to get another horse, which could lead to more financial wealth if it was a good horse. After months of waiting, the moment was there and the horse gave birth. But when the new foal acts very strange the first few days after birth, Tim gets worried and calls the vet. And when the vet saw it, he immediately called the police. But what happened to the horse? And what did Tim do wrong? When the vet called the police, they told him they would be right over to his side. This foal needed special help from more than just a vet. The vet had never seen anything like it and knew that every second counted. It can even be a life or death situation. The police responded immediately, as they knew the situation would require their jurisdiction and they had to help the vet immediately. When the police finally arrived, they immediately helped the vet with the foal. But the police not only helped the vet, they also came to Tim. "Sir, you must come with us. It is important." Tim was shocked. What did he wrong? If Tim was questioned and arrested by the police, does that mean he has a direct correlation to the situation, or was he wrongly accused? When Tim was still answering all the questions, he suddenly heard disbelief from the foal's direction. "I can't believe this," said the vet. Something was very wrong, but what did the vet think was wrong with the foal? What was Tim's role in all this, and could this poor animal be saved? The problem started even before the foal was born. The first sign that they were dealing with a strange case occurred during pregnancy. It was normal for a horse to be pregnant for a year. But to Tim's surprise, Zippo, his mare, was pregnant and 13 months pregnant. And yet, there were few signs of impending work. The Foal's mother was already acting strange during pregnancy. Before birth, it was already talked about and discussed by the farmer and random vets they knew. They wanted to stay informed to ensure that the health of both the mother and child is safe. When the vet came by a few days later to assess Zippo, it was clear to Tim that he was right to be concerned. Even the vet admitted that Zippo didn't seem close to giving birth, and indeed it wasn't a good sign. After performing a quick health check, the vet proceeded to induce labor herself, and for a moment it looked like everything was going to be okay after all. If Zippo didn't deliver on time, or as soon as possible, it could be a bigger health risk affecting both the mother and the child. The next day it turned out that the vet's antics had indeed worked. There were signs of relief and a trigger to induce labor that could lead to the birth of Zippo's newborn baby. Tim walked into the nursing stable to find that Zippo was panting and seemed to be under a lot of pressure. It was what he was told, and he followed them word for it. There were even visible signs of the foal making its way out of its mother into the world. But Tim couldn't help but notice that the colt looked stark white. There may have been a genetic mutation during pregnancy, but again, nothing has been proven to make such an assumption. The farmer and his family welcomed the newest member to their farm. After a few hours, there was something unlikely and eerie about the newborn. Tim was thrilled with the success of the delivery. It didn't seem to go well a moment before the delivery, but now everything would be all right, he hoped. The most disturbing thing Tim noticed at first glance, and even from a distance, was the color of the foal. It was solid white with no other markings on its fur. And while there were certainly white horses on the planet, neither Zippo nor the sire horse had white on their coats. When it comes to color, it wasn't alarming to begin with. Zippo had no white tint or spots that could be traced to her baby's color, making the color something to think about in regards to the health of the Foal. Now Tim may have had his share of breeding, but when it comes to the reason behind this kind of phenomenon, he had no experience at all. As the day progressed, Tim began to notice subtle changes in the foal, and in the end it seemed that the young horse had mastered getting up. But moving was still a big struggle for the colt, and his paws didn't seem to master moving so easily. Tim was concerned about the young foal's progress. A tipping point for Tim was the foal's behavior compared to other foals Tim had encountered. The baby was inattentive and motionless. It seemed to have no direction, and Tim was now sure the foal could walk. The animal chose not to walk, And for horses, this was often a sign that they would probably never get up again. Another big problem Tim had with the foal was that it didn't seem to have a good relationship with its mother. It didn't drink with Zippo, creating more distance between Zippo and the foal, who was often left alone. Animals would usually bond with their mother from the start. In an effort to keep the young horse alive, Tim's wife, Monica, began feeding the colt instead of Zippo. There may have been issues between Zippo and the colt, but they still had to treat the colt properly as they should. The farmer's wife took several bottles a day to the foal and carefully cared for the horse until it drank the milk. But Tim knew this couldn't go on like this, so he called the vet. As Tim related his observations to the vet, the doctor listened in silence. While doing his best to calm Tim down, he explained what he believed was preventing the foal from developing normally. The vet thought the foal could be blind. This cognitive impairment would explain the behavior of the young foal. He gave Tim some instructions to test the horse. However, the foal passed every part of the test. He could open his eyes and follow the bottle of milk with ease. Indeed, he was not blind. But as Tim went through the steps of the test, he noticed something strange that he hadn't noticed before. The test would give them the answers they were looking for. As the foal moved slightly to follow the bottle of milk, Tim noticed a small bump on the horse's belly. While the presence of the bulge wasn't too alarming, it turned out to be pointed and hard, and when Tim moved to feel it, the foal responded with deep pain. We all know that bumps, bruises, and bulges are never good. For newborn animals, these are more serious matters, as the bumps, bruises, and bulges can be exactly the same as what can be seen in humans. This reaction alarmed Tim, who immediately reported his new observations to the vet. The vet listened and took note until he suddenly fell silent. Tim spoke into the phone, "Are you there?" But when the vet responded, it was clear something had hit a nerve. The vet's tone had changed. He meant it. "I want you to do exactly as I say." It turned out that during conception, the owner of the other horse had slipped in a tracker so that he could know when the foal was born. The reason behind implanting the tracker was still airy. He intended to steal the colt when it was born, but the tracker made the foal very sick. The reaction or chemical reaction, incidentally, was fatal to the foal, as it could mean that the foal would immediately lose its ability to lead a healthy life. People and the authorities treat animals just like humans. They are a viable part of our lives, and that is why they should be treated in a good way. Eventually, the police were called by the vet and the man was arrested for what he did. Placing trackers for a human or animal is illegal. The vet operated on the foal and managed to remove the tracker. It took a while after that, but the foal has finally become completely healthy again. There was tremendous respect for the vet, who was able to diagnose the problem and spot it right away. Tim would never have known how to handle this, since it wasn't a problem related to breeding. Once the foal is born, you only expect them to grow and get healthy, as they have been able to handle the foal and be happy now.